Welcome in everybody to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and this is BPNFL. It's week 18. We're going to finish strong. And the thing to know about this week is a lot of overs, typically. A lot of defenses decide that, we're just not into tackling. It's week 18. We've got plane tickets already booked for the offseason. Some teams have a lot to play for. We're going to definitely do a deep dive on some of those games as well. We've got Saturday football, we've got Sunday football, and then after that, we're going to jump into the playoffs. So if you haven't already, this is the time to download the Betting Pros app, sync your sports books for free, use the tools, use the free trials for the premium tools, use it all, make some money for goodness sakes, and have some fun doing it. Erickson, was a fun weekend of wagering. I got my overs on Bucky Irving and Mike Evans and a few other things that I was very much in on. And our Patriots right now have the number one pick, which is great. I want them to trade that pick for a boatload of other picks and hopefully remake the organization, but I'm sure they'll screw something up on the way. Probably. We'll see what happens. But the drip of week 17 is just about dripped out. So week 18, I cannot wait for you to be here. And let's start with the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore 11-5. They are at home. Get ready for this, Andrew. 17.5. That is the number. I know you hate the big numbers. This is the biggest one we've seen all season long. 42 is the total. Cleveland Browns looking for the upset. Probably not going to happen. So plus 1,000 money line. Cool beans, whatever. It's not going to happen. So Andrew Erickson, I know you've laughed at me, but a lot of times this year in these conversations, I have taken these 14s, these 13.5s. I've done this and I've done it successfully all year. I'm kind of tempted by the 17.5. I think they can handle it. I think Baltimore's going to be okay, but I know you will probably advise me to the other.
Yeah, I mean, this is a divisional game, and this is where weird stuff happens. It's week 18, like you said. So are the Ravens really going to try to... I mean, the Browns did beat the Ravens already, so maybe we do see the Ravens try to run up the score a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, I think there's better ways that you can spend your Saturday than watching a rout of the Ravens against the Cleveland Browns, whoever... I mean, the Browns are trying to win. Again, if I could pick a side, I'm not taking the Browns, but it is a very, very big number. So maybe the over, if anything. Just root for the Ravens offense to score points. Maybe the Browns get, lucky touchdown here or there. But it's probably
that's an interesting approach too.
Stay away
Because
from.
what's your team total in your mind for this game? Like for the Ravens?
I mean,
would you say 30?
It's got to be over 30, yeah.
Right? Okay, so I'm thinking it's 30.
I'm not sure what the juice is for that.
Well, but to your point, let's say 31. All we need is, about 10 or so from Cleveland here, and we're in business for the 42. And the other thing to keep in mind too, this is a perfect week for setting the custom line alerts if you have the Betting Pros app, which you should, because Andrew and I were talking before the show. There's going to be a lot of changes here. Who's going to be playing other players? Who's not playing anybody? Who's going to try this guy at quarterback? There's going to be a lot of that. So this is probably the most important week for the custom line alerts. So if you have games you're in on, or you're waiting for changes on certain games because you want to lock in a certain over or under or a spread number, this would be the one week to certainly be utilizing that tool. I think the over is probably the best bet because I can see Baltimore running up the score and just letting it all hang out here, and the Cleveland Browns just kind of, throwing in the towel. Well, if they have any towels left to throw. However, a fun game here. Joe Burrow playing his best football last Saturday was a tremendous game for him, for T. Higgins, the Cincinnati Bengals clawing their way back into things, and the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of falling apart a little bit here at the end. Steelers are 10-6. The Bengals are 8-8 now. This is why I keep saying, everyone's like, oh, Zach Taylor's going to get fired. No, he's not. They play for this guy. They played for him last year when Joe Burrow got hurt too. This team doesn't have quit in it. They just don't have enough defensive pieces to stop anybody. However, Pittsburgh Steelers offensively have been falling apart. So the Cincinnati Bengals, believe it or not, are 3-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh. 48.5 is the number, plus 130 for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Look, Cincinnati Bengals have nothing to lose. I feel like all of the pressure here is actually on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what is your take on this game in week 18, Andrew?
Well, it's interesting because the Steelers are not playing for they're playing for playoff seeding potentially here. They're not playing. They're already in the playoffs. It's just a matter of who's going to take down the division. Obviously, the Ravens are playing, and they're very heavy favorites against the Browns. So it's very unlikely that we see the Browns come away with the upset. So most likely, the Steelers are just going to be a wild card team playing in the first round of the playoffs. But it's one of these things where they probably want to play better than they did on Christmas.
Well, they need momentum. They have none of it. They have played bad football 2 weeks in a row. They got their butt kicked by the Ravens in a huge emotional game. They got their butt kicked on Christmas Day. They got coal in their stocking from Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That's the thing is I think as a Mike Tomlin team, you want some momentum here going into this thing because you don't really have any.
Yeah, they're on a 3-game losing streak. Do they really want to go into the postseason on a 4-game losing streak? If anything, it's like, this is, hey, like, our playoffs start now. Like, we got to start playing well. And who better to kind of get the team going than let's knock the Bengals out? Like, not even like put up into conversation, whatever Denver does against the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's just put to bed the Bengals making the postseason, put the final dagger in. I mean, the Steelers are playing at home, right? Home underdogs. That's usually the process you want to chase here. So I like Steelers, with the upset at home as underdogs, kind of riding the ship here, entering the postseason and kind of knocking out the Bengals.
All right, let's move to the next one here. Chicago traveling to Green Bay. -9 is the number for this one. 40.5 is the total. Just to recap too, sorry, the Pittsburgh, we were so into, in case I didn't say it, 48.5 was the total for the Steelers game, plus 130 for the Steelers on the money line. I think I got hung up on the 3 and we just launched into other stuff. Did you have any feelings about the total in this game with the way the defense of the Bengals continues to give up points at an alarming rate?
I mean, every game that the Bengals play, it seems like can go over the total. So that's why it's at 48.5.
Yeah, it's high number.
So that would be a lean towards the over probably there. But
Okay.
Steelers games tend to do some, it's probably a shy away point for me.
All right, now we can move to Green Bay. Jordan Love, by the way, I cashed in on the under on his passing yards. I told everybody, you had 389 last time they faced each other. You go back to last year, they had a much smaller number. And you know what? Vegas was telling you something, that game was going to be tighter. It was such a low number on Jordan Love, and it even came in on the under despite the fact it was low. But now you get the Chicago Bears, who are 4-12. 40.5 is the number. Green Bay at home, 9-point favorites in this one, plus 310 on the money line for the Chicago Bears. Really, this one has to do with another situation of seeding, I believe, when it comes to the Packers right now. They're holding strong in the, where are they? They're in the 7 spot. Is that where we are right now with them? Is that
so? They can only be the 6 or 7 seed. So
right.
To me,
they really can't change anything.
That's why I think that this Bears line is kind of crazy. Like, you're getting 10.5. They can get 10.5 points with the Bears against the Packers team that doesn't really care. I mean, this is a
dangerous one because you might be sitting guys here. Like, you could see Jordan Love maybe for a quarter or something, just to get some reps, or maybe not at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with the Green Bay this year is with like Jordan Love's health. Like, that's really been important about when they've played their best. Obviously, they've played much worse against like the better teams. The only teams they've lost to are the Vikings, the Lions, and the Eagles. So they're going to face probably either Philadelphia or the Rams in the first round of the postseason, which seems like whether the 6 or 7 seed. I'm not sure that they like prefer a particular opponent. I don't know. So I think for them, it makes more sense for them to sit their guys. And I think that you're getting a ton of value. I think this line's going to close closer to the Bears. I don't know. This seems too much to me. Like, for the Chicago Bears, I get they're playing on the road, but the Bears should have beat the Packers earlier this year. Like, they missed on that blocked field goal. Again, that was in Chicago, but divisional game. Like, I like catching this many points with Chicago. Like, that Chicago's never going to go down. They're going to go down swinging. They throw the ball more than any other team in the second half of games. So you can get a backdoor cover here, even if Jordan Love does play. Like, I think that this line is based on, you get Packers at full strength, Bears at full strength. And I'm not so sure like that's going to be the case when we look up and see this game actually play out. So I really like the Bears here, like plus 9.5. Yeah.
Okay, let's get another big spread here. You have the Atlanta Falcons at home, 8-8. And the spread is 8-2. So 8-point favorites at home against the Carolina Panthers. Again, the team that doesn't really have so much quit in them. I know yesterday, they started off that game pretty close with Tampa, and then Tampa just pulled away from them. And they had so many injuries too. Not having Chuba Hubbard in that game really crushed them. Like they were down to the third string running back, and just not enough. Not enough here. But I feel like this is the last team, if you're the Falcons, you want to see at the end of the year. Just like, not with the way that they have really tried to assert themselves and prove that even though they're a 4-12 team, that there's something to be excited for next year. And I think that they've planted that seed at least a little bit here. 47.5 is the total, plus 350 on the upset line here for the Carolina Panthers. So 8 is a pretty steep number here for Michael Penix and company, rookie quarterback, but he is back at home. Any early value on this line for week 18 for you when it comes to Atlanta?
I think it's right. Touchdown favorite. I mean, the Panthers defense is just so bad.
Yeah.
They're just they don't have anybody left. It seems like I don't even know who's playing defense for them. I mean, I liked the Panthers last week. Obviously, that did not work out. Again, even when the line was at like plus 10, Carolina, I really liked that line, but it ended up working out. It's just a matter of, do I think the Falcons can do offensively what the Buccaneers did last week? I don't think so. So look, Carolina for the most part has played closer in most of these games. Obviously, the Buccaneers just destroyed them, and I think that's why you're seeing this line as big as it is. Even though I think the Falcons should be heavy favorites here, and it seems like ludicrous to think I could go back to the Panthers after yet again another week that I bet on them and they destroy my hopes and dreams. But
see, when Chuba was out, that's when that was.
But
no
I mean,
for me.
He's
but
a
they
running
need
back.
to do that.
Buccaneers
They
have a good
need
running back.
Bryce Young needs that. He needs that solid running game in order to establish some of the things, because they're limited offensively what they could do in the way that they run that offense, and it's smart. And to Canellis's strength here, he is trying to tailor an offense to the strengths and weaknesses of the quarterback, and you want to make sure you have a established running game here for Bryce Young, so he doesn't feel as much pressure. When you don't have that, things get a little sloppy there. But certainly one where Atlanta has a shot here, this division, if things break their way. Everything's broken for Washington well this year for the most part. What an incredible season for the Commanders. 11-5 right now. They're going to take on the Dallas Cowboys, who got pwned by the Eagles. Oy, maron. We'll get to the Buffalo Bills game in just a minute here. But Washington, 3-point favorites on the road against Dallas. 44 is the number, plus 138 for Dallas here on the money line. Now, again, we're talking about seeding here at the end of the day. So they're 11-5 currently. We also have the Packers at 11-5. So right now the Commanders in the 6th spot, and we have the Packers in the 7th spot. So do you think the Commanders go out there in this in-division game and let it all hang out? Or do you think that they're like, you know what? We're on borrowed time here, house money. We're in the playoffs. Nobody expected it to be this good, and they're just going to focus there instead of trying to chase this Cowboys game?
Yep. I think that they're not going to play most of their guys. So I think that Dallas is going to become favorites in this game. So I think that there's good line value on the Cowboys here. I like the under in the game. The total's pretty high.
So take the +3 now is what you're saying. That's the best thing to do. Yeah.
That's what I kind of think. They don't have a lot to play for. Again, seeding. Again, like the way that the NFL did the structuring is now week 18 is just now everyone's bye week because they got rid of the extra bye week for that second seed. So that's what every team is just doing. Like, well, once we have our seed, we don't really care where it is. We'll just take our bye week in week 18 and then just go to the playoffs. So even though they tried to get rid of bye weeks, they actually just created week 18 as a bye week apocalypse for NFL teams. So, and that's also why I like the under in this game too. Like if there's no Jay Daniels,
been the case, I feel like it's just now. Actually, I think it's a little better than it used to be because you do have more playoff spots. That's the only thing. Like there was more playoff spots available. Maybe this year the parity in the league wasn't as good as maybe they had hoped for. But the fact that you expand the playoffs, I think at least some more teams have a little bit more going on. And you do have some of these playoff style games for seeding that are going on too. Like the NFC South, we're still fighting that one out. There's still some teams on the bubble. But to your point too, any Dallas stuff here, you think where they after how bad they looked last week, it's not like they played well at home. So even if Washington sits everybody, how comfortable are you with Dallas?
Well, I mean, Dallas, I'm pretty sure, didn't Dallas already beat the Commanders earlier this year? I think that was like a massive upset on the road. And look, the other thing that I want to point out, we're talking about motivation. There's also coach motivation, right? Do you think Mike McCarthy wants to play bad against Commanders backups potentially? No.
No. And that Commanders game that they beat them in was that crazy game where it chated back and forth a million times at the end of the last 2 minutes of the game. So that was a little bit of a they won, but did they? Or did everything got the last laugh?
I guess my point with that is that, okay, let's say I'm wrong and Jane Daniels plays full go, you're still live at Dallas plus 3.5. I don't think you're totally dead. And that's kind of, I'm looking at a lot of these numbers here. It's okay, if I'm wrong about the motivation of the starters, well, am I totally screwed? Well, no, because Dallas already beat the Commanders. We've already seen this team beat this other team. It's a division game. So I'm getting 3.5. And then the potential bonus of, do these lines move when Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn say, yeah, Daniels is not playing, and then it jumps to, Dallas is now a touchdown favorite at home. Well, that's why I want to kind of get on it now. I think I have some fun here, with some of these moving lines here, and kind of seeing where you end up when Sunday hits.
All right, let's go to Jacksonville, Indianapolis. The Colts are 7-9. The Jags are 4-12. Minus 5.5 is the number. 45 is the total. Plus 185 on the money line for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game really doesn't have too much appeal for me. I don't love this line, to be honest with you. And, the Jekyll and Hyde nature of the Colts, I know they eventually put up some points there, but they lost to the Giants. I know Joe Flacco took over a quarterback, but I know it was on the road, but the weather ended up not being an issue. All of a sudden things changed dramatically in that forecast too, or it ended up being 60 degrees and not raining the entire time. So I don't know, man. Colts, a very weird team all season. Tough to get a beat on. Do you have a beat on them for this last game?
I like the over. That's what I like. When you look at Jacksonville, historically, I don't remember what the exact number is, but over the last 2 years, they've scored 30 points, I think 3 or 4 times. 3 of those times have been against the Colts. like this Gus Bradley defense, like Doug Peterson knows how to attack it and how to create big plays. It's in a dome. Both these teams are out of the playoffs, so it's kind of, hey, let's YOLO ball, right? Like week 18, let's put on a show for the fans that show up. We're not going to the playoffs. Both coaches are, I mean, Peterson's probably out. Shane Steichen, someone is getting moved from Indianapolis. They got to clean house somewhere, some way. I don't know if it's Steichen or if it's the GM that gets the boot here. I don't even know if we'll see Richardson play because it's the last game of the year, but I think that we're going to get points here. It's in a dome, no weather, so I like the over.
All right, let's take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. So they're 13-3 now after another butt kicking there at home for them of the Cowboys. The Giants coming off a win, which I'm sure Giants fans are just thrilled about. Plus 3.5, the Giants traveling to Philadelphia. Eagles are favorites in this one. 38.5 is the number. Plus 150 on the money line for the Giants. Now, look, everyone's attention is going to be on Saquon in this game. How much does he play? And also, is he chasing that record? He is, about 100 or so yards away from it. So certainly within striking distance. For the Eagles, this is really about home playoff games, which they already are going to have one of them. So seeding matters to a certain degree here for the Eagles. And also, if Jalen Hurts is cleared to play, the question is, do you want to put him out there coming off the concussion? Because, again, if you should suffer a second one, all of a sudden your playoff dreams just kind of die. So what do you think happens in this one? I know this is kind of hard. It's Monday. We're looking ahead. It's hot takes. But do you have an instinct on this game, too, as you think this might play out?
I'm taking the Giants. I don't think the Eagles are going to play anybody.
Okay.
I really don't think. Look,
so you're on the 3.5, or you're straight up on the money line?
On the 3.5. Because again, like I just want to take the value where I see it now because things can get weird in these weeks. I just feel like, hey, I think the Giants are going to be up against Eagles backups. Again, like that also doesn't mean they're going to win. Like that's the other thing too. Like that's why I want the I want the 3.5 because we've seen plenty of backup teams still beat teams with their starters. Again, the Giants are starting basically a backup team as well. So I will take the plus 3.5 with the New York Giants. I don't think we're going to see the Eagles play their starters. Again, like you said, Hurts is banged up coming back from the concussion. And we've already been down this road with Saquon Barkley where he had an opportunity in one of these games earlier this year to break a bunch of Eagles records. And he said, no, coach, like
it was his individual record, I think, too, his most yards in a game.
Yeah, let the Young Bucks eat. Look, I get that. I think that rushing for 2,000 yards in the 16-game season was the goal here. Like he hit that and now he joins that. But if he breaks Eric Dickerson's record in 17 games, like he broke it in more. He played more games. So he was able to break the record. So I don't think the record holds as much weight because it's an extra game. And Eric Dickerson even recognized that. Like, yeah, he did in 17 games. I did in 16. Like mine is more impressive.
It is.
Than Saquon Barkley's.
He's 100% correct.
Yeah.
He also did an era of football where guys were beating the crap out of Eric Dickerson.
Yeah. So I think it makes so much sense. Like Saquon Barkley didn't go to Philly to break the rushing record. He went to win a Super Bowl. And now he finally gets to win or have the potential chance to win a Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni shouldn't even ask Saquon if he wants the record. She'd be like, no, you're not playing. We're trying to win here. And I bet that Saquon would agree with him and be like, yes, I came here to win, not to break the rushing record. Again, maybe the Giants can do a solid and just hey, just rush for 100 yards. We won't stop you.
No, I don't know. And
I guess too, that's
the
other thing too. Do you think the Giants would like to play spoiler against Saquon and be like, no, we're not going to let him rush for that amount of yardage against?
I would think the Giants would want to stop winning football games because they are putting themselves back considerably. If they win again, they're going to be right in that top 10, towards the end of that 10. That's going to be a brutal spot for them because they're not going to get a quarterback. So they're looking at retreads. They're looking at bringing other guys in and a new coaching staff. The whole thing is going to be. Yikes. Giant yikes going on there for sure. Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots. The Buffalo Bills just 3-point favorites in this one against New England because the anticipation is the Buffalo Bills are going to sit on their haunches. 40.5 is the number, plus 130. Look, I'll be honest with you. I think Buffalo can still win this game even with Trubisky playing. I'll be honest with you. I think that's where they are because I don't think we're going to see Drake May in this game either. So that being said, the battle of backup quarterbacks, give me the team that's just floundering. They got their asses handed to them this weekend on Saturday by a good Chargers team. Don't make no mistake about it. But I think what got exposed there is the thing that continues to be exposed every single week with the Patriots is the preparation is poor. The defensive effort is worse. And for a defensive-minded coach, I know it's his first year as a head coach. You want to give people grace. I don't know, man. I feel like these back-to-back blowouts here, which I think you might still get an ass kicking here from the Buffalo Bills, it could end up with Gerard Mayo being a one-and-done coach, which is not something the Patriots, I think, want to do, but something where they might have their back against the wall, where Robert Kraft gave the loyalty test there to Gerard Mayo. I told you I'd give you this job. I gave you this job, but Mike Vrabel's still shouting out there, and I think Mike Vrabel is just a more accomplished coach at this point that they might want to pivot to.
I don't disagree. I mean, that's the thing. If Vrabel wasn't a factor, I think I would be cool.
It
would
be different.
Mayo
I
back,
would not be saying it's that specific guy because of the history he has with this organization.
Yeah, and it's not like, look, Mayo had the entire season, and it's not like, oh, well, he didn't have a quarterback. It's like, no, well, you did, and you didn't help him whatsoever.
No.
Like, so, and you have to also consider, like, what is Mayo's impact on Drake May anyway? Like, again, like, I think the best decision he actually made was just putting May in, like, a lot earlier than most people, and like, even myself anticipated. If anything, that probably bought him more time because he put Drake May in earlier than a lot of people would have liked to have seen. So, I mean, the defense is just an absolutely train wreck. And that's really supposed to be his calling card. So I think that's going to hurt him. I think for this game to me, I'm going to be attending this game, and I think it's going to be 7-3, 73 ball game. So I'm going to take the under.
You really know how to pick them, boy. You really pick some of these barn burner contests to end up at. All right, let's go to Tampa, who can control their own destiny. They're 9-7, big win for them this past weekend. They're going to take on the New Orleans Saints, or whatever's left of the New Orleans Saints. The number here is enormous too, 14.5 here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are favorites. 43.5 is the total, plus 700 for an upset from New Orleans. New Orleans is toast. New Orleans is done. 14.5 is a good size number. It's just a matter of, I feel like there's going to be some sort of pride from the Saints side, but at the same time, I just don't know if they have the manpower for that pride. You know what I mean? Like, they're so injured. It's on the road, like all this stuff. It's like, I think the Rizzler's done a good job here trying to get this team to give everything they have effort-wise. I just don't think they have enough left in the tank. 14.5 is a large number, though, that being said. So where would you go with this one at all?
Yeah, this one is probably another. I just don't like.
Maybe it's a stay away.
These massive spreads. I just don't see. It's like, because Tampa Bay could dominate the entire game, and then Spencer Rattler gets like some garbage touchdown, and then you don't cover, and then you're just like, why? Like, why did that? Again, that's exactly how I felt when we talk about this next team here, New York Jets, soon to be, but we'll save that conversation.
Yeah, we'll save that one. All right, let's get to the Houston Texans and Tennessee Titans here. Houston's 9-7. The Titans are 3-13. They're at home. They are 4.5-point favorites. So we're looking at this line right now. 36.5 is the total, plus 170. Again, for Houston, they are pretty much locked into their spot here. They're not really going to change all that much. So the Houston Texans, I think from a pride standpoint, would like to put some better football on the board after last week. But the line's telling us that this one is going to be Houston just phoning it in.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested why this line is the way it is, because if this, again, Vegas makes these lines as sharp as they can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen any like concrete information about, they're not going to start anybody. But clearly that's what Vegas is telling us. The Titans have been the worst team against the spread, I think, like ever. So this is telling, like, when they're favored by 4.5 points, like that is somebody's telling the Vegas, hey, like Stroud's not going to play in this game, or at least that's what my understanding. But Stroud, after the game on Christmas, talked about how like winning double-digit games is like important to them. Like they want to finish with double-digit wins, and I mean they played so bad. Like how can you just backdoor your way into the playoffs after playing that type of football against the Baltimore Ravens, where you got a safety? Like your offense didn't even score a single point. I think that D'Amico Ryans should get these guys going. So I actually like taking some value on the Texans. And again, if it blows up in my face, I mean, it's the Tennessee Titans that has to beat me. The team that has literally never covered the spread at the worst rate ever. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this game. I'll take the Texans. I think plus 4.5. I can get them. Yeah. I mean, who's the backup in Houston? It's not, his name is escaping, but he's played NFL games before. So, I will take the Texans here against the Titans, who can't really cover the spread against anybody.
Texans depth chart. Let's take a look here. Backup quarterback right now for them is Davis Mills.
Yeah, Mills. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. We love Davis Mills here in the perk. Big fans of Davis. All right, let's get to San Francisco, Arizona. Arizona petering out, the paper tiger that I always knew they would be. I could not believe when people were like, yeah, Arizona's going to be. No, they're not. They're not going to win that division, and they're not even going to be close to sniffing it. They're 7-9. San Francisco 6-9. They play tonight. This is practically a pick 'em right now. Arizona +1 at home. You're getting -1 San Francisco on the road. 46.5 is the total on BettingPros, and then -115 on the money line for San Fran. -105 on BP. Look, you're trying to go out here with some pride And I think the 49ers have more pride than the Arizona Cardinals. The body language of Kyler Murray is infuriating to me. He looks like a guy who's really good at football, who is doing it as his job, but does not want to be there. And that I just can't seem to get past. And every year it seems to grow, and it makes me more frustrated watching him because he is so talented. But at the same time, it just feels like he does not want to be on the field executing these things. And just, I don't know, it just does not compute to me, the leadership, all that stuff. And for San Fran, like a really disappointing season, do you want to end it with a W? I think they do. So if anything, I'm just going to run right over to the San Francisco side of this game and hope for the best. That's my pick in this pick'em. Do you have a pick in this pick'em? What's your dog in this fight, if any?
Game total under. That's what I want. Because like usually what happens is when you have two teams that have just been disappointing all year long. I mean, they have nothing. Both teams have nothing to play for. Yes, like you could argue, like, well, their defenses don't care. Well, you know, I don't know how much their quarterbacks care. Like, do they shut down Brock Purdy? Like, do the 49ers shut down some of these guys who are playing through injuries? Like, Trent Williams, he's not coming back. Like, why are we going to get points here? We know Arizona can barely score points with their starters. So I like.
Well, Trey McBride scored points. You're finally happy. Did you bet it?
Oh yes, of course,
okay.
Of course I did. Yes, very happy. One of the few things I got right on.
There you
NFL
go.
Week 17.
There you go. All right, Kansas City, Denver. Kansas City 15-1, taking on the Denver Broncos. So this is tricky here. You know, I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs are just starting to put it together. Mahomes coming off a 300-yard game. Kansas City, though, of course, is 9.5-point underdogs on the road to Denver. The anticipation here, Vegas is telling us, is that the Chiefs are like, nope, we're good. We're going to take a couple weeks off and just get healthy. I always worry about that, though, because you have multiple weeks off. You come out flat. I know you've seen it. I've seen it, you know, with teams in the past. 39 is the total for this game, plus 390. So this is an opportunity here to kick a division opponent to the curb. But at the same time, I think you would rather see Denver in this playoff mix than you would see Joe Burrow. That's my feeling. So I think it makes sense if you are doing the gamesmanship here for Andy Reid and company is, you know, give me Bo Nix in a playoff game. The last team I want to see is the Bengals come in with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow because you know they're confident because they've beaten you in your building before. So I do anticipate this being like one of these Chiefs phone it in kind of games and sitting starters and all that good stuff. But it is a little disappointing at the end of the day.
Yeah. I will say, though, you have to pay attention to that Steelers-Bengals game, right? Because if the Steelers win, then the Bengals are already out of postseason everything. So then it doesn't matter necessarily. So then in that case, like the Chiefs, like, hey, let's knock out the Broncos. Like, who do you think the Chiefs would rather play, the Broncos or the Dolphins? Like, because like that's the situation. Yes, they would. Again,
so that being said, what's your
way the Dolphins are going to knock?
Is your anticipation that the Cincinnati Bengals win that game on Saturday?
Well, I like the Steelers. Like,
okay, so if you like the Steelers,
I mean, it's a close enough it's close enough where, like, I mean, Steelers at home, it wouldn't like shock the world if the Steelers beat the Bengals playing at home. Like, that's not, again, Joe Burrow, his record against the AFC North is so much worse than against every other opponent.
Well, AFC North is also good.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So like I know he rolls against other non-AFC North teams, but he doesn't have a winning record against AFC North.
No.
Like, there's a reason why. So I think the Steelers can throw him fits. So I think for this one, it's like, if Cincinnati's still alive, I'm just going to put Broncos money line on basically everything because I don't think the Chiefs are going to win. They're going to try to lose. Like, I just don't imagine where they're like, oh, we need to beat the Broncos so that the Bengals can get in. They won't say that, but that makes zero sense to me logically that they would do that. But in the reversal, if Cincinnati loses, the Steelers win on Saturday, then I think that you could get a little bit more upbeat from the Chiefs where, hey, let's knock out the Broncos. Again, the Broncos almost beat the Chiefs at home this year. We'll take the Dolphins. We'll take the Dolphins coming to our building.
I agree. The 9.5 here with the Chiefs is interesting then early. If that is indeed the mindset there, or it might pivot depending on what happens Saturday. Speaking of the Dolphins, 8-8 taking on the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers set a record, most sacks ever as a quarterback. So there you go. Finally beat Tom Brady in something, Aaron. Good for you. Minus 2.5 here are the Miami Dolphins against the Jets on the road. 40.5 is the number, plus 120. Now Tua wasn't in last week. We hope Tua is in this week. If not, it could get a little rough here. However, the Jets, once again, continue to find ways to lose football games.
Yeah, give me the Dolphins. I think Tua's going to play. Like,
I do too.
They said he was close last week. And again, they have to win this game to hope keep their playoff hopes alive. So yeah, look, the Jets, man, it's just, I mean, Aaron Rodgers pulling himself from the same game. Not even the coach.
I like the Aaron
decided to sit him
Rodgers
down. It's like, I'm gonna sit
penalty
down.
there too when he was pushing the guy after the pick out of bounds.
Dude, it's a summarization of the entire season. Just like he goes up to Ulbrich, he's like, yeah, man, like if you thinking about putting Tyrod in, looks up, it's 40-0. And of course, I have the under in that game. I'm thinking this is the best bet of the week, the under.
Well, it
And
certainly
of
was
course
for the first 3 quarters of that game, and then the last like 5 minutes of that third quarter, it just exploded for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because we had company over. I'm doing things with Holiday where that game, like we got red zone on, going back and forth, and then I look up again, and it's 40-8. I'm like, what did I miss here? What happened?
Yeah, it's like 9-0. Like they're going to the first half into the third quarter. I'm like, this is great. This is my best bet. Like under 46.5 points. The Jets play slow, and then you have this like Tyrell Shavers guy for the Buffalo Bills just like rip off this like 80-yard touchdown, leads the Bills in receiving yards on his first catch. Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, the all-time sack leader, because he doesn't throw interceptions because he just takes sacks.
That's
right. Caleb Williams, though. That's the record Caleb Williams is going for.
Caleb's right on his heels, and it's a good start, certainly. He is the only guys ahead of him ever in a single season are David Carr twice with the Texans, who were an expansion team at the time, and Randall Cunningham. Fun fact. That's the only guys ahead of Caleb Williams. Records were made to be broken, Caleb. Go get him. Seattle, Los Angeles. The Rams are at home +3 here. Seattle -3 favors 39.5 is the total, +135. So any implications from this one that matter for this line?
I want all the Seattle action. The Rams have the NFC West locked up, so they were able to get it based on some of the things that happened on Sunday with like strength of opponent. Seattle is out of the playoffs, so Seattle has a couple incentives. Like Geno Smith has a couple passing yards stuff, so he's gonna play and like be out there and like throw the ball so he can get extra money. And we've seen this Rams team in the preseason when they don't play their starters, like they get destroyed. They get destroyed, and I don't think McVay's gonna care at all what this game turns into. He's like, my odds of winning playoff games are all based on how healthy is Kupp, how healthy is Nakua, how healthy is Stafford. Like, that's all he cares about. So I think that the Rams just don't care about this game, and I would bet Seattle up to like 9.5 here. Like, I think that Seattle's just gonna roll because I don't think the Rams are gonna care. So
that Steelers game could also impact the Chargers' home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. So they take on the Raiders this coming week 18, -5.5 point favorites. 41 is the total, +195. Again, maybe this could change depending on what happens with Pittsburgh. Maybe they take the foot off the gas, but that's not exactly the Harbaugh way, is it?
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought about it more. At first, I was like, man, like the Chargers really don't have a ton to play for. Again, they're going to be a lower seeded team, but like you said, like a little bit of home field advantage in the playoffs. And Harbaugh, that's not his style. Like he's not going to stick. I mean, they got the resting in the fourth quarter against the Patriots, right? So his guys are all rested up.
They're well rested already.
His guys are all rested up, and they're playing a divisional opponent. I think that he wants to like, hey, let's end the season on a high note. Let's get up big and then rest Justin Herbert in the second half. But I think this is probably a line I would stay away from, though, because we don't know how much the Chargers need to win by. Obviously, the Raiders are trying to play as hard as they can for Antonio Pierce. Again, this is probably going to be his last game as the Raiders coach, and they're going to get Brock Bowers as many records as they humanly possibly can.
What a season for him. What a season for Brock Bowers. Incredible start to a career. Last but certainly not least, the one everybody wants to see, Minnesota, Detroit. Yeah. This one is for all the ships.
All the marbles.
All the marbles. This is what it is. So here you go. So -3, Detroit at home. Favorites, 52.5 is the total, +125. Now, Andrew, I know you love this field for overs. 52.5 is a big number. Are you still taking the over here?
Yes. I just
zero chill from Erickson on that.
Quick. It's not even like it's a 50-50 proposition because it's not. Like games hit this number like 75% of the time in Detroit. So again, with these two teams playing at the levels that they're playing at, I don't see how there's not going to be points in this game. So it's been one of the best bets I've made all year long is just betting over on the Lions game, and it's worked out more often than not. So I see no way, especially with two teams just like closely. Great teams both. I mean, this game went down to the wire last time these teams played. I believe it was like a 2-point game or a 3-point game. And I think interestingly, Joe, I guess before we wrap up here, like from a future standpoint, again, this is going to affect so much with one team's going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC with like the clear pathway to the Super Bowl, and the other one's going to fall to 5. So is this a time like you take futures on Vikings and Lions, like to get the best value because one of them is going to plummet, but the other one is going to skyrocket out? Is it just, hey, the Vikings get the upset, and then I'm cruising here with Minnesota as the number 1 seed with my, 10-1 ticket for them to win the Super Bowl. I don't know what the odds are, but
Sam Darnold going to a Super Bowl. I got to say, it's something I did not have on the bingo card. going into this year.
I
I would also say that as somebody who has a lot of shares early preseason of Kansas City and Detroit, and then hedged a little bit with Buffalo because they seem to be a little bit more of that team of destiny lately. Just everything just breaks their way, and that happens sometimes. Minnesota, you're still getting really good value to win the Super Bowl plus 800. I think that's the hedge. I think you just go right for the Super Bowl one, and you hope that they actually get all the way there. And then they do have a good home field advantage in that building. The most heartwarming favorite moment for me of Week 17 was Sam Darnold getting hoisted up on everybody's shoulders after that game. It was great to see. That guy's been through a lot. He went from seeing ghosts in New York to now being a monster. And I think that is just really cool to see at this stage of his career. And he's still got a lot of future left. And I think the Vikings are in an interesting spot next year. I would be looking to see what, not a great quarterback class. Is somebody going to give you a ton of draft picks for JJ McCarthy? And you can continue to build around Sam Darnold and be good now and be a Super Bowl contender now. Because if you switch to the young kid, you just don't know what you're going to get. I like McCarthy, but it's unknown. I know what I'm getting with Darnold right now. And it looks like a team that, as you said, could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind the idea of keeping both guys, right? Like, you sign Darnold
McCarthy's young.
to a 3 or 4 year deal. McCarthy's young again. He's one of the younger quarterbacks. And he's also coming off like this major knee injury, right? Like, that's another thing that kind of throws a wrench in this whole thing. Like, we don't know how healthy he is. And I don't know what the odds are when it comes to think about this quarterback class, right? I would say for the most part, most of the first round picks look like hits for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean McCarthy's going to be hit too? Are they all going to be hits in the first round? Like, what are the odds of that? So is McCarthy even going to be a hit necessarily? Based on, May's a hit, Daniels is a hit, Bo Nix looks like a good pick, Williams, I think that he's going to turn things around when they get the right coaching. Penix still kind of,
if they get the right coaching, yeah.
Yeah, if they get the right coaching. So, but overall, I wouldn't say any of these rookies had oh my God, absolute disaster of a season, even though I think Caleb Williams versus expectations kind of be put into that category. I'd say most of them exceeded expectations.
Oh, far and above. Daniels and Knicks especially just incredible this year.
If anything, it was just part of the issue with Williams is because his expectations were just probably not realistic.
Yeah,
they were just so high.
And you don't see progress. That's the problem. You're not seeing any progress. The one thing you want to see is, losses. Okay, it's going to happen. Rookie quarterbacks, but are you seeing progress? And I think the answer is no right now, which is unfortunate.
I would love to. It would be an NFC Championship game for the ages. Baker Mayfield for Sam Darnold.
Oh, baby. I'm leaving on that note. I'm getting out on that. Download the BP app, subscribe to the pod wherever you hear podcasts, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for Andrew Erickson. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy Week 18.